Good morning, hello, and welcome to Daf Yomi, to our studio audience on Zoom and to the millions watching on YouTube. We are going to do Daf Ches of Pesachim. We are in a new Masechta. Everybody say yay! So, Mazel Tov to everybody on finishing Eruvin last week. We started our first Mishnah, if you recall, last Sunday, so we've seen what we're talking about, checking for chametz by the light of the candle. So we are going to pick it up on the bottom of 7b, right on the last line there. For once, I'm not actually going to replay a whole Mishnah or something like that. We are just going to pick it up from the two dots right at the bottom of the page. So here it comes, up on your screens. Thumbs up if you can all see that. Got some thumbs up there, brilliant. Okay, so let's check it out. So we had been talking about checking chametz by the light of the candle and all the different things like that. So the Gemara picks up at the bottom. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught us, Ein bodkin lo leor hachama v'lo leor halavana v'lo leor ha'avuka. We do not search for chametz by the light of the sun, nor do we search by the light of the moon, nor do we search by the light of a torch. Now, a torch here means a big fiery torch rather than an electric light. Rather, we search by the light of the candle, because candlelight is the most suitable, as we turn the page to the top of 8a, it's the most effective for doing a search. Even though there is no proof for this in the Torah, there's no explicit commandment in the Torah to do it like this, nonetheless, there is an allusion to this idea, which we find by connecting a whole series of verses. Shneimar, as it says in the pasuk in Shemos chapter 12, verse 19, Shivas yamim seor lo yimatzeh b'bateichem. For 7 days, leaven shall not be found in your houses. Va'omer, and it also says in Bereshit chapter 44, verse 12, Vayachapes begadol heichel. And it also says, and he searched, starting with the eldest, talking about when Joseph is going through the brothers' sacks to find out who has stolen his goblet. So that verse there, Vayichapes, the Hebrew word for searching is used. Va'omer, and it says, connecting that to a verse in Sophania, chapter 1, verse 12, Ba'es hahi achapes es Yerushalayim, and it says, at that time I will search, same word, Jerusalem, or same root, I will search Jerusalem with neirot, with candles. So there's this idea now spreading through our different verses and spreading through our sources that when it comes to not finding chametz in our house, which requires a search, and we've seen the word for chapes, of searching, in the context of Benjamin's sack, and then we're seeing the context of searching by the light of a candle, which connects those two types of searching. So when searching Yerushalayim, they searched with nerot, v'omer, and it says ner Hashem nishmas adam chofes kol chadrei baten. The spirit of man, the soul of man, is a candle of Hashem. Chofes kol chadrei baten, searching all the inward parts. So this concept of ner, searching, connecting to nerot, searching, connecting to the searching of the sacks, connecting to the fact that we need to do a search for our chametz. And so that is how you can see a thread running through the Torah that is consistent, that when you want to search for something, you should use a candle. Now, a very interesting thing just over here, ner Hashem nishmas adam, the soul of man is the candle of Hashem. So a small idea that I was just hearing, which is that we're familiar with the fact that chametz is representative of our own inflated egos and our arrogance. And so, as much as we need to get rid of physical chametz on Pesach, we also need to try and eradicate traces of ego and traces of arrogance and all the rest of it. And so, perhaps over here as well, there's a trace of a connection between the concept of the ner being used to get rid or to find out our chametz, and the concept of needing to search within ourselves to rid ourselves of our own spiritual chametz. So I'll leave that with you guys to think about. So says the Gemara, Hi or hachama heichidami. What exactly are we talking about when we say that you cannot search for chametz by the light of the sun? That's a little bit of we would have to try and think of a place where that would be appropriate. So the Gemara says, if you want to say that we're talking about a courtyard, if you want to say that the case that you would be referring to is conducting your search in a courtyard, in which case you would be utilizing the light of the sun to be able to look around your courtyard, but Rabbah said that a courtyard does not need Badika because the ravens, the birds, are always flying around, and if they see a trace of chametz, if they see crumbs, if they see something worth eating, that would cause a problem for us on Pesach, then they will just go there. So there's not going to be any chametz in your chatzar because they'll just get eaten by the wildlife. Rather, we could consider a case of an achsadra. We've seen this word on numerous occasions. It translates it there on the screen as a portico. Perhaps it's some kind of porch. It means that you've got running around the edge of your courtyard, you've got some sheltering that's coming off. So the Gemara then says, Ha'amar Rava, but Rava said, Achsadra la'ora nivdekes. Rava has said that a portico may be searched by its own light, meaning that you would not use a candle when searching it, but you can search it by sunlight. So that can't be what the Baraisa was talking about either. Lo. Sricha la aruba de b'chader. So the Gemara says the statement of not searching by sunlight is referring to when you have a skylight in your room. So your room is naturally bright, and so therefore you might think that it's considered like an achsadra, or considered like your chatzah. You've got all this natural light coming through. Udahecha, to which the Gemara says, so what part of the room would we be talking about where the sunlight through the skylight is not going to be sufficient? If we're talking about directly in line with the skylight, that's going to be the same as our porch, as our portico. Rather, it's talking about the sides of the room where the sunlight might not be penetrating. So in those kind of places where the sunlight is just not going to penetrate, those areas have to be searched for by candlelight, and you can't rely on any natural light that's going to try and reach there. So now the Gemara asks, Va'avukalo? Are we not allowed to use a torch for searching for chametz? It's a bit strange. Surely you get way more light from a nice big fat torch, or even just a Havdalah candle. Surely you're going to get more light out of that than you will out of a tiny, measly little candle. V'ha'amar Rava, didn't Rava say, "My dichsiv v'noga ka'or tihiyer kanaim miyado lo"? Where's this verse? Let's make sure I'm reading it right. V'noga ka'or tihiyer kanaim miyado lo l'sham chevyon uzo. Didn't the verse in Habakkuk say, "And a brightness appears as the light. He has rays at his side, and there is a hiding of his power," which indicates that Hashem is going to provide rays of glory for the righteous in the future. Lama tzadikim domin b'fnei shechina. What are tzadikim compared to before the shechina? Kener b'fnei ha'avuka. They are like a candle in the face of a torch. So the indication of this verse is that the or of a torch is going to be so much more significant and so much stronger than the light of a candle, because in us compared to Hashem, we are like candles in front of a huge, gigantic torch. Va'amar Rava, avuka lahavdala mitzvah min hamufcha. And likewise, Rava has said that when we make Havdalah, we make it with a torch, with a big candle, multi-wick candle. And not only that, but that is the best way to be able to do the mitzvah of Havdalah. So clearly then a torch is a really, really good source of light. It's preferable, it's beautiful. Amar Rav Nachman, but in which case we have to wonder why we can't use it for B'dikas Chametz. So Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Ze yachol la'achnisa l'chorin l'sakin, v'ze eino yachol la'achnisa l'chorin l'sakin. So we have a few answers. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, a candle is going to be better for lighting up crevices and cracks. It's a small candle, you can manipulate it and direct it to get it into those small places that are otherwise hard to reach. Rav Zvid Omar, Ze oro lefanav v'ze oro la'acharav. Rav Zvid says that the candle is going to be lighting up things in front of it, and a torch is going to be lighting up things behind it. So the candle, according to Rav Zvid, is going to be of greater effectiveness to light up what's in front of you. Rav Papa Omar, high bias, high low bias. Rav Papa says the reason is that it's scary to use a big torch, because you're always going to be concerned about what you're taking it near, and what you're going to be touching could possibly set other things on fire. So with a candle, you don't have that same level of danger. Ravina Omar, Ravina says, Hai mashach nahara v'hai miktafik tufe. The light of a candle is very steady and very stable, whereas the light of a torch, of a big Havdalah candle, is going to be much more flickering and much more unstable. So it's not going to give you a steady source of light. It's going to give you a very jumpy light, which is actually less effective to use for searching for chametz. And so that is why, even to this day, we use a candle. Picking up now on the part of the Mishnah where we had said kol makom she'ein machnisin. So we're referring over here to the Mishnah back at the very, very beginning, where we said that any place where chametz is not going to be, well, we don't take chametz, where it doesn't ever enter, so we don't need to check those places. So that's what we're referring to now as we enter this part of the Gemara. Asks the Gemara, kol makom, when the Mishnah says any place, la'asuye mai, what was it coming to include? Says the Gemara, la'asuye ha, the Tana Rabbanan, is coming to include that which was taught by the rabbis. Chorei beis ha'elyonim v'hatachtonim is coming to include the upper and the lower holes of in your house, in the walls of your house, that are difficult to reach, things that are very, very high, things that are very, very low. If chametz never goes there, you don't need to search for them. V'gag hayetzia, v'gag hamigdal. It comes to include the roof of I'll put it as a shed. They've got it there as a veranda roof. V'gag hamigdal, and the roof of a closet, of like a big chest or a big cupboard. V'refes bakar, the cattle shed, the stable. V'lulin, the chicken coop. U'matbein, the storehouse for straw. V'otzros yayin, and the storehouse for wine. V'otzros shemen, and the storehouse for oil. All of these areas, ein tzrichin b'dika. These areas do not require a search to be conducted. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, and the reason for that is because it's not a place where you are taking chametz in. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Mita hachaleches b'toch habayis u'mafsekes tzricha b'dika. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, if you have a bed that you use to divide the area inside your house, and there is space under this bed to be able to store things, then you have to search that area. To which the Gemara says, Uraminhu, but hang on a minute, there's a contradiction. We've got a challenge over here. If you have a wall between two properties, and there is a hole in that wall. So so what we say is Ze bodek ad makom sheyado magas, v'ze bodek ad makom sheyado magas. On each side, the homeowner only has to check as far in as they can reach into this hole. On any space that remains between these two properties should just be nullified in his heart, meaning that if there was any chametz there, you are removing all trace of ownership. If you recall, by the way, biblically, that's all we have to do. All we have to do to go into Pesach is mentally distance ourselves and sever all connection of ownership between us and any chametz that is found in our property. It's only the additional safeguards that we put into place that we have to search, that we have to destroy, that we have to get rid of the chametz. But biblically, all we would need to do is just not have any ownership at all of chametz during Pesach. Anyway, we digress. Rabbi Shimon ben Gab. So what we've said there is that when you have a hole between two properties, each homeowner must search in the area that he can reach, and everything else gets nullified. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Mita hacholekes b'toch habayis. If you have a bed that you use to divide up your room, ve'etzim va'avanim sedurim tachtecha u'mapsekes, and you use the space under your bed to store wood and stones, and it's all arranged, and it's all underneath the bed, then einat tzricha bedika. Then you don't need to search in that space. Well, that's a bit strange, because if you recall, just a moment ago, we said that you would need to. So the Gemara says, Kashya mita amita, Kashya achorin achorin. Well, now we have a two-pronged contradiction. There's a contradiction between the rulings of the bed, because we've said in one place, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says it must be searched, and in the second place he has said that it shouldn't be searched. Kashya achorin achorin. And we also have a contradiction between the rulings with regards to the holes, because we said in the first instance that the upper and the lower holes don't need to be searched, and now we're saying that holes between two properties do need to be searched. So the Gemara tackles both of these things. Chorin achorin lo kasha. There is no contradiction, my friends, between the Baraisas teaching about holes. Ha be'iloi b'tatoi v'ha be'bitzoi. The first Baraisa was talking about upper and lower holes, which are difficult to access. Those do not need searching. But the one where we said that they do need searching, that is where it is usable. It is at a friendly height for both homeowners to be able to access this hole. Quite why there would be a hole between two properties, nowadays we would not really have this problem. Not saying they don't exist, but just usually when people have a hole that goes right the way through to your other property, you would normally try and board that up quite swiftly. And I think you probably get the police involved as to why somebody is drilling through to your side of the house. But that being said, it could be that they use these as storage spaces and they did board it up. I don't know. David, does anything in your Koren tell us why there would have been these holes between two properties? Nope. Okay, so I think it's still there. Oh, here he comes. He's unmuted.
No. Two neighbours. It says, in the case of holes in the wall and protrusions that are either higher than a person's reach or less than 3 handbreadths off the ground, based on the Jerusalem Talmud, one is not required to search for them, just restates it.
Yeah, so it doesn't really flesh out for us why these holes would have existed. Certainly nowadays, if there were holes between two properties, we would probably try very hard to get those boarded up, I would imagine. Okay, so where are we? So we've resolved that first contradiction. The first contradiction is not difficult for us because one was referring to holes which are extremely inaccessible, and where they are accessible, they would require searching. So then we say, mita amita lo kasha. There's also no contradiction between the rulings of the two beds. How so? Ha de medallia, ha de mitate. De mitatai. One is where the bed is raised off the floor, and so there is a significant amount of space underneath, and so that would need searching. The other case is of a bed that is low, and the space beneath it cannot be used. And if the space beneath it cannot be used, it would not require bedika. And I guess perhaps by having all of these stones and bricks and things filling up the space under the bed, we are comparing that to a bed that is so low down that you can't store anything else underneath it. So where there is no available space for chametz to be stored, you would not need to search under there, which is why when we've got things which are fixed to the ground and things which are so heavy that you're not really going to utilize the space underneath them, and all these kinds of instances, places where we just don't take chametz. If you don't take chametz up to the bedroom, then we wouldn't need to search for chametz. If, however, as we see in other places, if you've got children that wander around with chametz, then it does complicate things ever so much slightly more. But if we're responsible with where we take our chametz during the year, and we know that chametz has not entered particular places, then we don't need to search for them. Similarly, if you've got fridges and freezers and all these things which are not really used as storage, okay, they are used as storage places for chametz, but underneath them is inaccessible, then officially we don't need to be moving these heavy objects to be able to do it, to be able to get rid of the chametz. We continue, ladies and gentlemen, with a question from the Gemara. Do wine storage houses not need to be searched? Vahatanya. Hold on a minute. We've got a baraisa. Otzros yayin, tzarich bedika. That wine houses need searching. Otzros shemen ein tzarich bedika. Oil houses do not need searching. Well, that's a pretty big contradiction. In one place we're saying it does need searching, and the other place we're saying it doesn't need searching. Hacha b'mayaskinan. So what are we talking about over here? But mistapek. We are talking about a place where you use. It depends on the usage. It depends on whether you would go down to your wine storage house during a meal to be able to get your hands on some more wine. Yeah, perhaps you've got the Solomon's round and they've wiped you out of all of the stock that you had in the dining room, and now you've got to go down to the wine storage to get a bit more. So if that's the case, then you would need to check there. But if you never go down to the wine storage area during a meal, in which case there's no concern that you might have taken some chametz down there with you, and so there's no chance that you've left chametz there, so then it would not need searching. Ihachi shemenami. If that was the case, then the oil storage would also depend on that. If it's a place where you use it during the meal, then you would have to search there as well. Answers the Gemara, shemen yesh keva la'achila, yain ein keva l'shtiya. Usually, you are pretty sure of how much oil you're going to need for a meal, and so we don't really have the same concerns that you're going to have to go and get more oil. However, as I said, if you've got the Goldman Goldbergs round, there's no telling how much wine you're going to need for a meal. And so, therefore, because it is much more frequent that you would go down to the wine cellar to be able to fill up the stocks at the table, so therefore there is a greater concern to be able to end up taking chametz in there. Tanu Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia teaches, Asu otzeros sheichar b'Bavel ka'otzeros yain b'Eretz Yisrael b'mistapek. Rabbi Chia teaches that we'll use that word now. They rendered the status of beer storages in Bavel like the storage houses for wine in Eretz Yisrael in terms of usage. It was seen then that was the beverage of choice in Bavel, and therefore that would be the modern day equivalent for ancient Babylonia. Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, "Bei dagim ein tzorich bedika." A fish storage area does not require searching. V'hatanya tzrichim bedika. But we've got a source that says it does. Lo kashia ha b'ravavei ha b'zutrei. It's not difficult, says the Gemara. One is referring to large fish, and one is referring to small fish. When it comes to large fish, you know how much you're going to need for a meal, and so you're unlikely to go down there. But if you have a storage for small fish, then you can never be too sure how much you're going to need for the meal, and you may need to go back down there, in which case you may end up taking chametz with you to go and replenish your stocks. Amar Rabba Bar Huna, Bei milchi ubei kiri tzarich bedika. A salt storage area and a wax storage area, these places will require bedika. And for the same reason, that if you're going to need to go and replenish your stocks during the meal, then you're going to go down there to get it. Amar Rav Papa says, Beit tzibi ubei tamid tzarich bedika. Wood storage and date storage would require checking. Tana, it is taught. We do not obligate a person to start putting their hands into holes and crevices to be able to search because of the danger. Ooh, my sakana. What danger are we talking about? If we're talking about the danger that there might be a scorpion inside the hole, how would a person ever even use it in the first place? Why would there be chametz in there? He wouldn't have used it if it was that dangerous. So that can't be the danger that we're talking about. Lo, says the Gemara, Saricha de nafal. The danger is, no, not the danger. It is, so the Gemara says, no, you would need to check it in the event of chametz having fallen in there unintentionally. So I think we're still on the premise that we're worried about scorpions, but we're also worried that there might have been chametz that fell in there by accident. The Gemara asks to that, if it fell in and it was completely accidental, then lama li bedika, why would I need to search? But there's a Mishnah that says, chametz shenafla alav mapoles, harehu kamavua, that if chametz fell into, or if there was chametz in a place where there was an avalanche, a landslide, rubble fell on top of it, harehu kamavua, then it's considered as if it's already had the beer done, it's already out of our possession. Hasam she'ena kelev yachol lechapes acharav. Over there it's talking about a place where a dog can't find it, can't even sniff it out. But over here we'd be talking about the type of hole where a dog would be able to sniff it out. To which the Gemara asks, Rabbi Elazar said, Shluchei mitzvah einon nizukin. What could possibly be the problem? We have a concept that when you are on the journey, when you are tasked with performing a mitzvah, and you're in the moment of doing that mitzvah, there is a concept that no harm will come to you if you are in the process of performing a mitzvah. In which case, if we're doing the mitzvah of searching for chametz, then nothing bad could happen by us putting our hand into these holes and into these crevices. Abba Ravashi says, Shema taved lo machat va'ati le'iyunei basra. He says you have to be concerned that a person might have lost something else, like a needle, in the same place. And so while he's searching for chametz, he's also searching for this other thing, in which case he's not going to be protected by the mitzvah that he's doing. But is that not also a mitzvah? Is he not still doing a mitzvah? Even though he is intermingling and also searching for something else, nonetheless, he is still doing the mitzvah of searching for chametz, so why would he not be protected? Not only that, but there's a brisa that supports me on this as well. Ha'omer sela zu litzdaka b'shvil sheyichye b'ni o she'ehye ben ha'olam haba, hari zeh tzadik gamur. There's a brisa that says if a person designates money for tzedakah, for charity, but it's on the condition that their child should live, or it's on the condition that they will be destined for the world to come, in which case we are mingling other things in amongst the pure mitzvah that we're trying to do. Nonetheless, the Brisa says, Harei zeh tzadik gamur, that this is a fully fledged righteous person. So why should we then not be saying that you're going to be protected? Dilma basa debadak atiluyne basra. Then the Gemara says, well, the concern is that after you first searched for your chametz and completed the search, so now you're going to follow on and search for this needle, in which case you're looking in dangerous places. looking in dangerous places, you're no longer doing your mitzvah, and so there is a danger. And the mitzvah is not going to protect them when they've already finished searching. So that's one answer. Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Mishum sakanas hanachim. It's actually the danger that we're talking about is referring to danger by the non-Jews. One second, I've missed the chat. Sorry, I missed that message before. So, Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak says that it's talking about the danger posed by non-Jews. Uklimohi, and this is the opinion of Klimo. Tanya, as it says in the Baraisa, Chor shebein Yehudi la'aramai, bodek ad makom sheyod magas v'hasham avat lo belibo. So the similar statement that we said before, where you have a hole separating two properties. One is owned by a Jew and one is owned by a non-Jew. So you should search up until the point that you can reach, and the rest can be nullified in your heart. But then Plimo comes along and says, Plimo Amar, Kol atzmo eino bodek mipnei hasakana. You should not search this hole at all because of the danger. My sakana, what is the danger? Inei masakanas kasafin. If it's the danger that the non-Jewish neighbor is going to suspect you of sorcery and of witchcraft, ki ishtamish, hey ki ishtamish. Then how would you have ever used the hole at all? Because anytime you're putting your hand in there, your non-Jewish neighbor may be suspicious that you are engaging in all kinds of inappropriate hanky-panky, hocus-pocus, sorcery, wizardry. Hasam ki ishtamish yamama unahara. No, because normally you're utilizing this hole in the daytime while it's light. So they're not going to be suspicious of you. And they're not going to have their mind on you. But over here, you're standing in this shared airspace between two properties, looking all very suspicious. It's the night time. You've got a candle, and so it could be a cause of concern. To which Amar Rabbi Elazar says, hold on a minute. If you are performing a mitzvah, you're not going to be harmed. Well, it depends. If it's a place where danger is commonplace, then we should not rely on this protective force of mitzvahs, which is nonetheless miraculous anyway. We should not rely on a miracle. Shnei Amar, as it says in the pasuk in Shmuel Aleph, Vayomer Shmuel, Eich Elech v'Shama Shaul v'Haragani, Vayomer Hashem, Eglas Bakar Tikach Biadecha v'Gomer. So the verse over there was saying, and Shmuel said, how will I go? Shaul will hear me and he will kill me. And so God says to him, take in your hand a calf and say, I have come to offer a sacrifice to God. So if it's nonetheless, so we're seeing over here that Hashem was even concerned of putting the person in danger. If it was a commonplace danger, there's a concern that you're not going to be protected. And that was even coming from the word of Hashem. So how much more so then should we be careful not to rely on miracles where they are so likely to possibly be in that kind of danger. So seeing as back then there must have been this really strong concern that non-Jewish neighbors would have had, that a Jew standing by a hole at night with a candle is going to be suspected of wizardry. So that is a legitimate cause for concern, and so we cannot rely on miracles in such an instance. They asked a question to Rav. Hani b'nei bei Rav dedaire babaga mahu lemise kadma v'chashucha lebei Rav. So they asked this question to Rav regarding the people who studied by Rav, and they live far away in the fields, and they are therefore having to wake up extremely early to get to the Beis HaMidrash, and to go home extremely late to be going home from the Beis HaMikdash. Do we have to be concerned that these very early times and these very late times are going to be very dangerous times to be moving around? So do we have to be concerned about them moving around at these times? Or, like we've been saying before, if you are on the way to do a mitzvah, then you will be protected. Amalahu, so he said back to them, Nesu, let them come. Alai va'al tavarai. and the responsibility is upon me and upon their neck. Nasal mai. So what about going back? What's your opinion there, Rav? Amalahu lo yadana. So he said, okay, I don't know if one can rely on the protection of your mitzvah when you're going home. Because on the way in, you're definitely doing a mitzvah, you're definitely going to be protected. But he couldn't say with absolute certainty that on the way home you were also going to be protected. But Itmar Amar Rabbi Elazar, but it had been stated that by Rabbi Elazar, Shluchei mitzvah einan nizukin, that a person on the way to do the mitzvah is going to be protected. Lo b'halichasan v'lo b'chazirasan. They're going to be protected on the way there, and they'll also be protected on the way back. Come on, who was he holding like when he said that? Where did he have the support on his shoulders to be able to make such a statement? Ki Tana. He was relying on this teaching. Tanya Isi ben Yehuda Omer. Isi ben Yehuda says, Klape she'amra Torah, since the Torah has said, V'lo yachmod ish esartzecha, no man shall covet your land. Talking about when all of Bnei Yisrael would go up to Yerushalayim for the Shalosh Regalim, for Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. So there's an assurance from the Torah that if they leave their property, even if they're leaving their families behind, and they go up to Yerushalayim, Hashem is going to protect all of that land. None of your animals are going to be harmed. None of your land is going to be stolen. No harm is going to come to it. Melame shetehei parasacha roeh ba'afar, that your cows, your cattle are going to be able to graze in the pasture in the fields. Ve'ein chaya meziksa, no animal is going to come and harm it. Tarnagalosacha min hakeres ba'ashpa, you can have your chickens roaming around and pecking around. Ve'ein chulda mezikta, no rodent, no weasel is going to come and harm it. So that's the assurance that Hashem gives to your animals and to your property when you go up to Jerusalem for Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. By the way, this is brought as one of our kind of pieces of evidence for the veracity of the Torah, because if you've got thousands of Jews journeying every single year to the Beis Hamikdash, being promised that no harm is going to come to them, all it would have taken is for someone to have had their property damaged while they were in the Beis Hamikdash, and then they could have said, "Oh, the Torah is false because look what happened. Everybody got mugged while we were gone." So it would seem then that did not happen because the prophecy of the Torah was true. Interesting fun fact. For Halo Devarim Kol V'chomer. So is now what we're saying not a Kol V'chomer. Uma elu shedarkan lazuk einan nizukim. If things that are commonly harmed, and yet they would not be harmed while you were absent from your property going to the Beis Hamikdash, b'nei adam she'ein darkam lazuk alachas kama v'kama. So in that case, people who are typically not harmed should be protected, all the more so if they are protected by the mitzvah. Einli ela b'halicha. But from this proof, I can only really ascertain that I'm safe going to Jerusalem. B'chazar minayin. What about coming back? Tamid loma ufanisa baboker v'halachta lo halecha. The verse says that you shall get up in the morning and you should go back to your tents. Milamed shetelech v'tinsah halecha b'shalom, which teaches us that you're going to be able to go back to your tents in peace, unharmed. And if I'm going to be protected even when going back, so why do I need a verse in the first place? If you're going to tell me that I'm safe going back to my property, well then I would understand intuitively that I'm protected when I go to my property. So for that, Rabbi Ami, we need it for the teaching of Rav Ami. The Amar Rabbi Ami, Kol Adam sheyesh lo karka ola l'regel v'she'ein lo karka ein ola l'regel. That is why Rav Ami used it to teach that a person who owns land should go up, is obligated to go up to the Beis Hamikdash for the Shalosh Regalim, and if a person does not own land, then they are not obligated to go back, to go up to Yerushalayim. Amar Rabbi Avin bar Rav Ada Amar Rav Yitzchak. Rav Avin bar Rav Ada, quoting Rav Yitzchak, says, Mipnei ma ein peros ginos of Yerushalayim. Why are there no fruits of ginosar in Yerushalayim? Yerushalayim is this wonderful, amazing place. Well, if it's such an amazing place, why does Jerusalem not? Try again. Why is it not a hospitable, habitable area to grow these amazingly delicious fruits. I think we talked about them in Masechet Brachot as well. These fruits, known as the fruits of Ginasar, were so high quality, were so rich in flavor, were so sweet, were so delicious, were so bursting with taste. So if they are so amazing, then why is Jerusalem not growing them? In order that people coming up to Jerusalem should not say, even if we had just come up to Jerusalem to taste these ginosar fruits, that would have been enough of a reason to come up to Jerusalem. But Hashem didn't want that. Hashem wanted people to come up to Jerusalem for the purpose of visiting the Beis HaMikdash, because of the amazing experience that would be. And so he purposely created an atmosphere where really the best reason to come to Jerusalem was because of the Beis HaMikdash. So if a person was to come up and say, it would have been enough for us to have these amazing fruits, ninsas aliyah shelo lishma, then it would have been that people were coming up to Jerusalem for the wrong reasons. Kayotse bo, similarly, Amar Rabbi Dastai Rabbi Yanai, Rabbi Dastai, the son of Rabbi Yanai, said, Mipnei ma ein chamei taveria. Mipnei ma ein chamei taveria Yerushalayim. Why are there not these amazing natural hot springs like we find in Tiberias? Why are these not found in Yerushalayim? The Gemara answers, Kadei shelo yehu ole regalim omrim, in order that people coming up to the Beis HaMikdash wouldn't say, Ilmale lo alinu ela lichot b'chamei taveria dayenu. If I had only come up to Jerusalem to experience the hot springs of Tiberias, it would have been enough. But nimtzeis aliyah shelo lishma, and then you would have been coming up to the Beis HaMikdash for all the wrong reasons. Which begs the question, I wonder if the King David Hotel and the Citadel and Mamilla and all these places, will they be around in the time of the third Beis HaMikdash? Or are we going to be like, oh, it would have been enough for that lovely massage in the Mamilla Hotel. That would have been enough of a reason to go out to Jerusalem. Who knows? Let's hope we find out very, very soon. Now we pick up on the quote in the Mishnah, where we had said there's this obscure machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai about searching barrels in the wine cellar, if you recall. And there's a difference of opinion as to whether you need to check the front two rows as you come in, or the top two rows as you come in. So there's this whole machlokes over there, and I'm going to give this a go. It's difficult. We're already 42 minutes into our shir, but let's give it a go. So, first question of the Gemara is Marteif Mandachar Shmei. Who was even talking about a Marteif, this wine cellar? Out of nowhere, our Mishnah randomly starts talking about checking in the wine cellar. Hachika Amar. So this is what it was saying. Kol makom she'ein machnisin bo chametz. Any place where chametz doesn't go in, ein sarich badika. Does not require searching. Va'otzros yayin, va'otzros shemen, nami ein sarich badika. And wine storages and oil storages also don't need badika. Says the Gemara, Ubameh Amru Shtei Shuras B'Marteif. And so when are we talking about a case, an instance where you need to be checking the two rows of your wine cellar? That is Makom Shemachnisin B'Chametz Uv Mistapik. It's a place where chametz would regularly be taken in, and as we said before, it depends on the usage. If it's an area where you are accessing for your meal, so it's going to be a place that needs checking, in which case we now have to understand which rows of barrels are going to need checking. Beis Shammai Omrim Shtei Shuros. Beis Shammai said the two rows al panei kol hamarteif, the two rows that are facing you when you come into the cellar. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, okay, hold on to your hats, guys. Rav Yehuda says, Shtei Shuros she'amru min ha'aretz vad shamei ha'torah. It is the two rows that go from the ground up until the ceiling. So when you come in through your entrance and you have got rows of barrels in front of you, and they may be going several rows back as well, but you've got these two rows right in front of you. So the first row there, or column perhaps we could say, the first column of barrels and the second column of barrels. That is going to be according to Rabbi Yehuda in the world of Beis Shammai. We're going to see there's a machlokes about Beis Shammai's opinion and a machlokes about Beis Hillel's opinion. So there's going to be four in total that we have to try and keep in our heads. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, Shura Achas Kamin Ga'am. Rabbi Yochanan says that actually it's talking about one row, one column of barrels when you come in, and also one row across the whole surface. Those are the ones that need to be checked. Kamin Ga'am, in the shape of the gamma sign, in the shape of an angle. Okay, so according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's one column there and one row. Pardon me?
I've got a nice picture, if you like.
Yeah, go on, give that a go, guys.
So it's this one here, Rabbi. You want to talk through that?
Yeah, well, who needs a Koran when you've got hand-drawn versions as well? I can't even see my camera now to be able to do it. So David is holding up. You've got stacks of barrels and one face there. So 2 rows according to Rabbi, who was it? Rabbi Yehuda, and one up and one across according to Rabbi Yochanan. And here is my attempt there. So yeah. Who did it better? Definitely the Koran. Says the Gemara, continuing, where are we? Tanya Kavasi to Rabbi Yehuda. There's a brisa taught in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda. Tanya Kavasi to Rabbi Yochanan. And there was a brisa that was taught in accordance with Rabbi Yochanan's position. Tanya Kavasi to Rabbi Yehuda, the brisa that goes like Rabbi Yehuda, Beis Shammai Omrim, Shtei Shuras al Pnei Kol Amartef, V'Shtei Shuras Sha'amru Min Ha'aretz Vad Shamei Karat. It's the 2 rows across the face of the cellar when you come in from the ground to the top. Tanya Kavasi to Rabbi Yochanan, and there's a brisa in accordance with Rabbi Yochanan. Shtei Shuras al Pnei Kol Amartef, Chitzono Ra'a Es HaPesach, Ve'elyono Ra'a Es HaKara. The outside will see the layer as you come in. Ve'elyono, if you're looking from the top, then you would be seeing the top level there. Shelifnim heimena v'shelamata heimena ein tzarich badika. But all of the other barrels within and underneath, they do not need badika. So that's the opinion within the world of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel omrim shtei shuras hachitzonos shehein ha'elyonos. Beis Hillel said, no, you have to check the 2 outer rows, which are the upper rows. So Amar Rav Elyona v'shelamata heimena. According to Rav, that's going to mean when you walk into your cellar and you see the barrels in front of you, you're going to be checking the top row and the row underneath that. That's only going to be 2 rows at the top there, instead of the whole face, like we saw with Beis Shammai. Shmuel Omar, Shmuel says, Elyona v'shelifnim hemena. Shmuel says it's that top row right at the top and one back, one within, the next row along the top surface there. So if we show on the screen David's book again, we will see that they are saying exactly as we've described it, hopefully. So you're checking 1 row at the top and 1 row down, or 1 row at the top and 1 row in, depending on Rav and Shmuel. So the Gemara asks, my time at the Rav, why? What is the reason for Rav's opinion? 1 second, you need to scroll down over here. What is the reason for Rav's opinion? Daik Chitzonos, he focuses on the fact that it said the Chitzonos, the outermost barrels, which he interprets to mean the ones on the outside facing you as you come in. But it also said upper ones, the uppermost ones. So why are you only focusing on the fact that it's in the outer? So he says, Limaute tatai tatai. He says that is excluding everything else, which is underneath it and within it, and beneath it. Ushmuel Amar, Elyona v'shelefnim heimena. He said that it was the top one and then the one back within the space of your cellar. My timer, what's the reason? Daik Elyonos, because he focuses on the fact that it said the uppermost. And so he is going with the 2 most uppermost rows. V'hachitzona katani. But the same question to him. But it also said chitzona. So why is he not focusing on the outer ones? Katani Limeute Gevaisa de Gevaisa, if that's how you pronounce it. He said it's to exclude the lowest and the lower rows. You only have to search the top 2 rows, according to Shmuel. Rabbi Chia Tani Kavase de Rav. Rabbi Chia taught in accordance with Rav positions. The Kulu Tanai Tanu Kavase de Shmuel, and all other Tanaim taught like Shmuel. The Hilchasa Kavase de Shmuel, and the halacha is like Shmuel. So if you have a wine cellar, it would seem therefore that you are supposed to search, like Shmuel says, the top row and then the 1 row beyond that. Ad kan for today, ladies and gentlemen. That's all for today's shiur. Wish you all a wonderful and meaningful day, and we'll see you all next week for page 15.